financially independent by the age of 38. I think that is impressive.
First crore happened even before I started thinking about financial independence.
You've been a salaried employee, you've been an entrepreneur, you've been a consultant. What are the strategies that you've implemented in your career to exponentially increase your own income?
तो एक्चुअरी बन जाओगे तो लाइफ बन जाएगी. पहाड़ों में उतनी पीस है जितना आप लेके चले. फायर के बाद कुछ एक्स्ट्रा पीस नहीं आ जाएगा लाइफ में. फाइनेंशियली स्पीकिंग, रेंट विंस और बाय, राइट? आई मीन देयर इज नो डिबेट. And you increase income by 4 universal rules. Earn more, spend less, invest the difference mindfully, and don't get ruined.
We've all started so obsessively thinking about just retirement कि बस मुझे तो छुट्टी चाहिए.
That madness to chase the fire number should stop.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Net Worth Show. मेरा नाम है शगुन और आज हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं सुमित रमानी, who is the co-founder of ProtectMeWell and an author of the book Ring of Fire. He did what most of us dream of. He was financially independent by the age of 38 and आज we are going to understand how he did it. तो अगर आप भी अपनी financial independence की journey पे हैं, I'm sure you're going to love this conversation, so stay tuned till the end. What has your personal finance journey been like? कब आपने पहली बार लाइफ में इन्वेस्टिंग स्टार्ट करी, सेविंग स्टार्ट करी, पहली इनकम कहाँ से आई? सो लेट्स टॉक अबाउट योर एंटायर जर्नी सो फार.
पहली बार तो फर्स्ट जॉब के बाद आई इनकम, एंड दैट वाज इन 2006. मैं इंजीनियरिंग करके अपना फर्स्ट जॉब कर रहा था. मेरे साथ एक ऑफिस में एक थे, सीनियर थे. उन्होंने बोला कि म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए, भले ही थोड़ा सा एक अमाउंट करो. तो मैंने पहला इन्वेस्टमेंट म्यूचुअल फंड में 2006 में किया था. उसके बाद मेरे को जॉब ज्वाइन करते वक्त समझ में आ गया था कि ये जॉब मेरे को नहीं करना है. एक्चुअली वो कॉलेज में समझ में आ गया था, पर कुछ सर्कमस्टांसेस ऐसे थे कि मेरे को जॉब ज्वाइन करना पड़ा. एंड मेरा इंटरेस्ट हमेशा अप्लाइड मैथ्स में था. तो मैं थोड़ा और एक्सप्लोर करने लगा. फिर वो सेम मेंटर उन्होंने बोला कि आउटलुक मनी तब एक मैगज़ीन आती थी, वो पढ़ो. तो मैंने वो पढ़ना स्टार्ट किया. पर्सनल फाइनेंस का थोड़ा अंडरस्टैंडिंग बढ़ा, पर वेरी वेरी लिमिटेड. पर एक मैगज़ीन के एडिशन में एक्चुअल साइंस का एज अ करियर ऑप्शन था. तो देन आई रीच्ड आउट टू हिम एंड आई आस्क्ड, दिस लुक्स ऑल राइट, ये करना चाहिए क्या? तो बोले एक्चुअरी बन जाओगे तो लाइफ बन जाएगी. एंड उस समय 200 एक्चुरीज ही थे इंडिया में. So basically, then I started exploring it. Around the same time, one of my friends, who was my school friend, had joined IT department of an insurance company.
Okay.
By then, I had figured out actuaries typically work in an insurance setting. I said it could be, and they were hiring. So he reached out, would you want to apply for this role? And that's when I thought, okay, this is a great segue into eventually moving into actuarial profession, moving into IT department of an insurance company. And then making the transition, moved to actuarial team, learned the practical aspects of it, and that was around 2010 already, right, or 2011. Spent another 2 years in the same organization, and then by that time I had gotten married as well, and then moved to Bangalore, started working with Swiss Re.
Okay.
That was 2013. By 2017, I cleared all exams. To put things in context, by the time I qualified as an actuary in 2017, there were only 400 actuaries in the country, and there are about 800 now. Around that time, and life at my last organization, that is Swiss Re, was very, very comfortable. I was living in Bangalore, used to walk to work. It was a European company, so 5 days a week. I can't recall a weekend where I worked. Wow. They ensured that we travel overseas a couple of times in a year, and the salary was reasonably good, apart from tons of employee benefits and stuff, right? So at 31 or 32, someone who has spent 10 years trying to strike a balance between life, work, and exams, had no exams to deal with. So, and life was super comfortable. And somehow I thought it's too early to get comfortable. And then I decided to start on my own. So which happened in later half of 2017.
Okay.
6 months went by. My daughter and wife went to my hometown. When they returned, I went to pick them up at the airport. My daughter turned her face away.
Oh no.
And that is when I realized that I'm doing something not right here.
Yeah.
Yes, making money, and eventually she'll also get benefited out of it, but this is too much of a compromise, and maybe balance is not right.
Yeah.
So that was the first thought when I realized that I have to get this balance right. But took me some more time, maybe 6 months or a year, to realize that all I'm doing right now is renting my time. For every hour or every minute I work, I make more money, which is a great setting to be in, but which also means that someone else is controlling a lot of my time.
Yeah.
So that was the second instance, and I realized, okay, I have to do something about it. And around the same time, I started meditating, and that's when I think everything came together. I realized that I have to take back control of my life,
Yeah.
and to be able to do that, achieving financial independence is one way of doing it. And that's when I started thinking about personal finance actively or financial independence actively. So already, I think 2019 or so, I was about 33 or so then.
So आपने mention किया था that you were financially independent by the age of 38,
Yeah.
right? I think that is impressive because even now people who want a fire ka number and they're aiming for it, they look for that. They think of it as maybe later 40s or early 50s. So tell me about that. Once you are financially independent at 38, what next? What was the first, mind shift that happened us time pe?
Yeah, actually, the mind shift started happening even before that. Once the financial independence was in sight, I thought कि वहाँ पहुँच जाऊँगा तो क्या करूँगा, right?
Yeah.
What would change in my life? And then I realized, so the thought around renting time was always there. I think around 2020, or I started another company which is called ProtectMeWell. I said in my mind, I wanted to build that. It's a bootstrapped company, so I would want to fund that as well. And I said, okay, if I travel, I would want to be able to extend my travel if I want to. So let's say I travel with a one-way ticket, for example.
Okay.
Can I also work from a location of my choice?
Okay.
So, which is where moving back to Bhilai happened, right? So I want to do these three or four things. Can I also not sign up with a client that I don't feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
right? Can I also define my work hours? So, okay, can I start at 11 and finish by 5, for example, right? So, yes, I want to do all of these, right? So, do I need to wait till I become financially independent in terms of the numbers that I had in mind? Or can I do it now? Yes, if I do it now, the goalpost in terms of number of years would shift,
Yeah.
but I would live a slightly fuller life. So that is what happened around the age 38, actually 36 or so. I started doing things that I would have done after achieving a certain number, because that's what you eventually want, right? So, and now by the way things are going, you would eventually get there. So even if I get there by 38, 40, 45, doesn't matter, because all these years I'm living a fuller life, which is what I would have done anyway, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first shift that happened. Of course, I gave up on a lot of clients that in the first conversation I realized ये काम मेरे से नहीं होगा, even though the money was good. Started building Protect Me Well, which in last 18 months has started generating revenue. October this year, we were cash flow positive.
Wow.
So, but from 2020 to 2023, 24, working in a setup where there was no money coming in, you were only pouring in money. You could do that because you knew that money is now less of a problem, right? And now my focus is now increasing more on Protect Me Well, while the consulting side still continues, and we have 4 qualified actuaries in the team, right?
Okay.
So my job on both sides is to do sales, which is not something that I've done before. But but I said, okay, ये करना पड़ेगा, और अगर फेल भी हुआ तो क्या हुआ, because again the money is less part of the problem, right? So all these things changed once I started thinking about life after financial independence.
Yeah.
And I started doing it a couple of years even before I got there.
Understood. Let's talk about your net worth now, and more importantly, आपने अपनी लाइफ में अपना पहला करोड़ कब बनाया, and what was that feeling like, and उसके बाद कौन सा एक mindset shift आया that you did not expect at all?
Yeah, the first crore happened even before I started thinking about financial independence.
Okay.
So it happened soon after I had started working on my own, earning at a significantly higher pace.
Okay.
And first crore is like, in very crude terms, it's like kamau poot, right? Now, while you are earning money, that crore is also earning a decent amount of money, right?
True.
Even at 8-9%, it's earning 8-9 lakhs. It's decent amount of money, which is what you would have earned as in the early part of your career, right?
Yeah.
So it's like a kamau poot, and it continues to grow because you don't spend that money while your income continues to add to that fuel, right?
Yeah.
So it gives you a lot of comfort.
True.
That money is now less of a constraint. 8-10 lakhs are decent for you to either have a better lifestyle or worry less about money, depending upon how you are wired.
Yeah.
In my case, it was the latter. So money 1 crore bought me that comfort that, okay, I have to now worry less about it.
Right. And I know that आपका active income was a really big part of you feeling,
Yeah.
of you not stressing out about money. But what about your participation in the market? Like you said, आपने 2006 में पहला अपना म्यूचुअल फंड में SIP स्टार्ट करा था. But how much did your market returns contribute to your corpus, and what has your journey with the markets been like?
Yeah, so it has been quite random and not all my investments were, I would say, suboptimal up until I actively started thinking about it. So up until I got to the, let's say, first crore number, it was largely my active income. 2006 में भी जो म्यूचुअल फंड स्टार्ट किया था, मैंने जल्दी विड्रॉ कर लिया था. उसके बाद सारे इन्वेस्टमेंट्स काफ़ी रैंडमली थे. टिप में किसी ने बोला ये स्टॉक में डाल दो, वो स्टॉक में डाल दो, वो भी किया. कुछ रैंडम म्यूचुअल फंड्स में डाला, वो सब भी किया मैंने. सो PPF में चल रहा था, EPFO में तो करना ही होता है. सो ऑल दैट वाज हैपनिंग, बट नन ऑफ दीज वर थॉट थ्रू.
Okay.
Up until maybe I would say when I was 33, this wasn't active. After that, I realized, okay, I've put in money in set of stocks that are not going to yield anything. Maybe I'm also not wired to invest in stocks because I don't have enough time to be able to read their annual reports on a regular basis. So also around that time, I think direct mutual fund भी आ गए थे. So I shifted to direct mutual funds as well. So all the active part of investing started after I first started thinking about financial independence. Up until that, I would say it was only my active income that was doing the trick. And it did the trick because my expenses were largely limited. Not that I was compromising on lifestyle, but the income part was significantly higher. And my lifestyle inflation didn't quite creep in. So the expenses did not grow at the same pace as income did.
For me, and I know most of my friends and colleagues, हमारा एक struggle है that genuinely the lifestyle inflation creeps in. You don't realize when you've upgraded from using a regular perfume off the shelf to something that's premium. How should I control my lifestyle inflation? How do I make better decisions? How do I understand whether or not I can even afford to buy a certain luxury or indulge in that? What advice do you have for me?
I think a lot of it has got to do with knowing yourself. Of course, there are things that I would crave for, but there are things that I would want to buy because someone else has bought. So distinguishing the two is more important.
Yeah.
Yes, let's say I want to drive a fancy car, but if I want to drive a fancy car, do 2 international vacations in a year, always fly business class, always want to stay in a 5-star, then there's something wrong.
True.
Okay, I want a fancy car, I would just go ahead, do it, buy it. But everything else, if that's because of comparison, that's where I want to stop.
Right.
So frugal doesn't necessarily mean that spending less, but I would say spending on things that you really care for.
Right.
And just on those things. If I want experiences, I would want to spend on experiences. If I want tangible stuffs, I would do that. But I would decide 1, 2, 3, right? And beyond that, I would let go of things.
Right.
In terms of what is affordable, I have a philosophical take on it.
Okay.
If you buy something and that becomes part of your worry or source of worry, then you don't afford it. Then you can't afford it. And I think if you go back to the basics of personal finance, it's just 4 universal rules, right? Earn more, spend less, invest the difference mindfully, and don't get ruined.
Yeah.
So don't get ruined. Not many people appreciate it. Have reasonable protection focused insurance, so the health situation doesn't ruin you. Don't gamble.
Yeah.
Don't get divorced. Because all of these are sources of ruin.
Yeah.
So if you do first 3 right and don't get ruined, you'll eventually have a very comfortable life
Right.
financially.
And now that you've been in the markets for a reasonably long time, I was wondering, most people will be watching this podcast. I think कहीं ना कहीं उन्होंने step 1 ले लिया होगा. They've probably entered the markets. They've probably started their first SIP. Now, what next? पहली investment के बाद, what should be your step 2? How should you start thinking about diversification within equities, within asset classes? So, what should again be your second step in investing?
The idea of investment should be aligned with, should do 2 things. One, it should ensure that you don't lose sleep. Second, it should ensure that it takes care of you in the future. So 100% FD maybe not recommended. 100% equity also not recommended if you start losing sleep, right? So find a balance. Whatever that balance is, it's not 100 minus your age. Whatever that balance is that ensures that you sleep peacefully is important. So do that sort of diversification. Also invest in instruments that you understand reasonably well. That's really the second thing. And third part is don't ignore the protection focused insurance, which I understand most people do not talk about.
Yeah.
The first insurance I would think you should buy is health, of course. Then also consider buying disability insurance.
Okay.
Because imagine a situation that you're 25 and you don't have legs or you don't have hands.
Yeah.
Your income would reduce drastically, the expenses would increase, and you are not dead.
Oh.
Right. So I think in my mind, disability insurance or personal accident, as they call it in India, is most important, because that's the situation when you're alive, your expenses increase and income is down to zero.
Yeah.
Health insurance, of course, and term when you have dependents. Home when you bought one.
Yeah.
Car, you no escape. But car also, people end up buying only third party, but also buy own damage. So if you have those protections, don't gamble. You'll get there.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, diversification to the extent that makes you comfortable ensures that you sleep well. Invest in instruments that you understand and ensure that protection focused insurance is there.
Right. I think this disability insurance that you mentioned, I've never heard of it before.
Yeah. So
This is incredible.
no. So I think just people do not think about it is because it's rare,
Yeah.
and also because the advisors would not talk about it because the premium is very, very small. So the amount of commission that you earn is also very small.
Oh.
So I have no incentive as an advisor to start talking about it. Maybe a bit of digression, but I would say people do not think personal finance in entirety. So for example, when people are thinking about their retirement corpus, they're looking at maybe $1 million. When they're thinking about term insurance, they're looking at maybe $1 crore.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, the size of term insurance or sum assured of term insurance is retirement corpus of your dependents.
True.
Right?
Very true.
So how is it that 1 crore is enough for your dependents, and when you want to retire, you want 8 crores or 9 crores? Because you're not thinking it very clearly, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the dichotomy is. That's now we have some sort of a relationship between term insurance and retirement corpus. So now we know it should be higher than 1 crore. You figure out what that number is. In case of term insurance, your survivors exist, their expenses continue.
Yeah.
Your income stops, your expenses stop. In disability, your survivor exists,
Yeah.
your income stops, your expenses increase, and you're not dead. So your disability cover should be higher than your term insurance. So it's just that we do not think these in entirety,
Absolutely.
and we see these numbers in isolation, and hence we tend to get these wrong.
Right.
So a bit of digression, but I thought it's important to bring that clarity.
No, this is incredibly important. And now that we're speaking, I've realized that I think so. A lot of times I ask, our guests कि अगर किसी इंसान ने कोई financial blunder कर दिया, life में कोई गलती कर दी, गलत investment हो गई, what are the corrective ways to go about it? And I think I've been asking that question to a lot of wrong people, and you're the best person for me to ask that question to. So I would love to know your thought on this. If I've made a mistake, how do I go about correcting it?
If you made a mistake, then you're essentially few years behind in the journey, and that's
Yeah.
all right. Just accept it, right? And the next step is to plug those gaps, find out what are the other risk areas, so that you don't end up in the similar situation again, and focus on maybe earning more, right? Which is largely upskilling, because that's the fuel. Without this, nothing is happening. And don't get into FOMO, because that would lead to another mistake. Now you realize that, okay, I've lost few years, maybe 5 years or so, and you still want to reach to, let's say, your fire number by 40. You would end up taking risky bets, and chances are that that would work against you. So plug those gaps, don't get into FOMO, continue to increase your income. That's the only way out.
And since we've been talking about retirement so much, if I want to start planning my retirement, is there a framework that you have in mind that I should be following? How should I even calculate कि मुझे इतने XYZ crores चाहिए होंगे?
So the number that I think people are forming consensus on from an Indian context is 35 times of your expenses. Plus, and I'll talk about plus as well.
Okay.
So expenses are a lot of them, but those expenses that you would incur after you retire, not what you incur now, right? So these could be, in my mind, can be divided into three parts: necessary, discretionary, and luxury spends. So necessary are घर का खर्चा है, grocery है, बच्चे का पढ़ाई है. These may or may not exist after you retire, but depending upon what situation you are in, right? बच्चों की पढ़ाई है, इंश्योरेंस का प्रीमियम है, all these are necessary, right? अगर आपका EMI है, so that as well. Discretionary could be maybe going on a holiday, right, or a vacation. If things are bad, you could maybe choose not to do those things. So those are discretionary. Luxuries are maybe going into fancy restaurants, having access to the finest clubs, buying the luxurious cars, right? So being able to divide your expenses in these three categories, and maybe applying a higher factor on the necessary ones, because those are the ones that you can't live without. A lower factor on the other two, maybe let's say 35 or 40 on the necessary ones, 25 on the discretionary ones, and maybe 15 on the luxury spends. You'll eventually get to a number. And these factors could be very different for most people, but eventually it would amount to 35 times of what you want to spend. Plus, there are one-time expenses. Let's say if you're savings for your kids' marriage or maybe higher studies. That number in present value terms, or think of it as what is that you would pay now, and hope that the inflation and rate of return kind of matches, right? Plus, a lot of people do sort of miscalculation in estimating the expenses. So some expenses happen once in 2 years, some expenses happen once in 7 years. For example, you probably travel for international holidays once in 2 years. You probably upgrade your car once in 7 years, or change your car. Right? Even if you're not upgrading, you still have to change in 7-10 years. You still have to renovate your house in 7-10 years. So people tend to miss out those. And even if you identify those, there would be still some remaining, right?
Yeah.
Some margin for those mistakes. And the 35X also has an underlying assumption in terms of what would be the asset allocation, what would be the tax rates. So all these add up into your 35X.
Right.
So if these assumptions are not aligned with your actual investments, then maybe beef up your FIRE number.
Yeah.
to put it very simplistically, why 35x, right? Why it makes sense. So imagine a world where there is no inflation. Imagine a world where there is no return on your assets. And your expenses do not increase because of lifestyle. So essentially, 35x would get you 35 years. One
Makes
times
sense,
x
yeah.
every year, right?
Yeah.
But we live in a world where there's an inflation. We live in a world where your investments would do slightly better than your inflation.
Yeah.
That 35 would stretch to maybe 45 years. Depending upon when does the sequence of return risk hit you, right? But that would take care of you for 45 years. So if you're retiring at 45, if your expected lifetime is about 85, 90, that's the number. If you're retiring early, your expected lifetime is higher, which I think is higher for most of us. 35x may not be enough, right? And that's where the important second part of the entire journey comes in, right? Most people would not get there in their early life. One of the things that I would want to highlight is that madness to chase the FIRE number should stop. Because yes, you would need to have a higher income. Yes, you need to control your expenses. Yes, you need to also invest mindfully, but you also need to get lucky in terms of getting reasonably higher returns.
Right.
And that would happen to only a fraction of 1% of people.
Right.
Rest of everyone who is chasing FIRE mindlessly would be disappointed. And not that those who get there would be supremely happy, because it's not a switch, right? पहाड़ों में उतनी पीस है जितना आप लेके चले हो, तो फायर के बाद कुछ एक्स्ट्रा पीस नहीं आ जाएगा लाइफ में. आई थिंक इट्स इम्पॉर्टेंट दैट people start thinking of FIRE as a journey where you increasingly do more of what you like and less of what you don't. Bit by bit, get control of your life. If you don't like some part of your life, let's say, don't like alarms that wake you up, do something that you don't have to start at, let's say, 8ish.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you get a luxury to start at 10ish. If you don't like, let's say, traveling by a metro, maybe earn a bit more, save a bit more, and let's say buy a car. If you live in Delhi and realize that AQI is not that you want to bear with, find a way to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
So these are all incremental measures of getting back control of your life. And that is the FIRE, right? FIRE is not getting to a number and then hoping that life would become beautiful. It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, I think that was such a gold mine of an answer, and I have so many follow-up questions for you. So let me start with the first one that I had. You mentioned taxes, and I think you're so right कि हम लोग जब retirement corpus के बारे में plan करते हैं, we don't think about all of these factors. So then how should I plan my investments that I'm tax efficient but also growth oriented? So what assets or what instruments should I be looking at?
So I would say tax is generally incidental. You choose assets, choose instruments that are more aligned to you.
Okay.
So that's one part. Tax, तो जीना है तो टैक्स देना है, उसका कुछ कर नहीं सकते हैं. But some of the things that you could do, right? See if you could divide assets in a way that you utilize as many pans in the house that you can.
Okay.
Right? So let's say if you're just husband and wife, can you divide assets in a way that the income generated from these assets are neatly distributed these two pans, because each pan is treated differently. There are tax breaks. So can you do something about it? I know you're also allowed to invest for minors.
Okay.
So for example, my daughter could have a mutual fund on her name. She would be taxed when we withdraw it and based on her income.
Yeah.
Right. So the idea is, can you make good use of all the pans that you have in as part of your area of influence, right? I think that's one part. And second is, if you're into investment and not into trading, you're reasonably tax efficient. So don't think too much about tax as a deciding factor. There's some tax planning is always incidental. It's always investment and personal finance or financial planning that is important, and tax is part of it.
Yeah.
For example, right, if you have invested in, let's say, startups, and you get lucky that you eventually are able to get out of it, and it's not only a paper money, there's a lot of capital gain, right? So maybe 5 lakhs could become maybe a crore, right? So the capital gain is 95 lakhs. If you think that this would eventually become a reality, maybe park the decision of buying a home up until then, because if you consume all of that in buying a home, you pay zero tax. Otherwise, nowadays still 12.5, it's not too much, but that's some part of tax planning that you could do.
राइट एंड हमने इतना रिटायरमेंट के बारे में बात करा है एंड फायर के बारे में बात करा है बट हाउ अर्ली शुड यू डू यू थिंक दैट वी शुड इवन स्टार्ट थिंकिंग अबाउट ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स बिकॉज आई फील लाइक अगेन माई जनरेशन एंड माई फ्रेंड्स वी ऑल स्टार्टेड सो ऑब्सेसिवली थिंकिंग अबाउट जस्ट रिटायरमेंट कि बस मुझे तो छुट्टी चाहिए कितना जल्दी प्लानिंग स्टार्ट करना चाहिए
I think we'll talk about retirement planning, but we should first talk about why financial planning is important.
Yeah.
So we're living in a world where most of us start working when we are in early 20s. And in my case, most of us would be out of work maybe in late 40s or early 50s. In India especially, you have more workforce. I'm not sure what AI would disrupt, but it would take away a lot of jobs. It is already doing in some form or shape, right? So assuming that you start in early 20s and you have a working life of another 20-25 years, and you're going to live till, let's say, 90 to 100. So in those 25 years, how do you ensure that you earn enough and that money does reasonably well, so that you're taken care of for another 40-45 years, and not just you but also your family?
Yeah.
The only way it can happen is through financial planning.
True.
If you don't do that, life after you retire or after you're forced to retire would be very difficult. And honestly, I think most of us would be forced to retire in late 40s, early 50s. So if that happens, and if you've not done financial planning well, you're in for a difficult life. Hence, it's important, right? The sooner the better is always is the right answer. But I think if you have already started thinking about it, and if you're in early 20s, it's a good idea to focus on increasing your income, because that is the fuel, and whatever is the base in your late 20s would become a starting point for early 30s, and so on and so forth. So, and you increase income by upskilling, building skills that are relevant for current and future world. Understanding yourself in terms of what your preferences are, how much equity you are comfortable with, how much debt that you would like to have, is gold your thing or not, and if you could delay buying a house till maybe late 30s or early 40s. There's just 2 or 3 things to get it right. But already thinking about money and financial planning, the sooner the better is the right answer, because most of us would have only 30 years of working lifespan,
Right.
and we are going to live for another 40-45 years post that.
Yeah. Now that you've mentioned delaying buying a house, up till your 30s, I was thinking a lot of people are now thinking of it this way, कि instead of buying a house, I will rent it, and जो भी difference होगा between my EMI and my rent, I'm going to put it in the markets and then defer and then buy. Is this a strategy that you think has some logic? And if yes or if no, what is the right way to go about even planning buying a house? How do you decide कि अच्छा ठीक है 30s में तो आ गए हैं, but do I even have enough money?
Financially speaking, rent wins or buy, right? I mean, there's no debate.
Okay.
And to put things in perspective, a typical rent yield would be 2-3%, which means that if you have a house of a crore, you would earn a rental yield of 2-3 lakhs, which is what you would pay, right, if you are living on rent. But a crore of asset would earn 8-9%. Even applying for tax and everything, that you would still make a difference of good 5-6%. That over a period of time could make a significant difference in your overall corpus. So financially speaking, rent wins or buy, and I think that's not a debate.
Okay.
Whether you should buy a house or not, I think you should, absolutely. When is the question, right?
Yeah.
When has a few factors. Once you have figured out which city you're going to live in, that's number one factor. Second, can you buy a house which is sizable, maybe not just for today, but also 5-10 years later? Because you don't buy a house every 5 years, right? Do you have enough money to be able to buy that? Second, I think most of us, when we buy home, would also have to take loan. Is the EMI serviceable enough? Right? I mean, is that too much of a burden? If it's too much of a burden, then I think the buying a house is probably not a good idea at this point in time. Sense of security that it brings in, and we'll talk about it a bit in a bit,
Yeah.
is unparalleled, right? And I'm not talking about sense of security from it's kind of wired in us, right? So one of the theories that I have is we are all hunters and gatherers living in this nice UX. So evolutionary perspective, we are still people living in jungle. And if you're living in jungle, you can either die because of a snake bite or a tiger eating you down. And that's where the home comes in. Having your area where nobody else can come in, saves you from heat, cold, rain,
Yeah.
becomes important. And there's no way that you can't live in a home, right? At some point in time in life, you would want that this is my place and I don't want someone to walk in and say, kal se khali kar dena. Right? So that is the kind of comfort that you would want, right?
Yeah.
And you should absolutely buy. When is a question, is a function of whether there's now clarity in terms of where you're going to live. Whether you have enough to be able to buy a house that do a down payment, that the EMIs are easily serviceable, and you also have some sort of clarity on future income, right? Because if you buy a house of a size that EMIs are serviceable now, but you are in a risky job and may not be able to service an EMI, then it becomes slightly more tricky.
Right.
Then you might have to further delay it, or maybe buy a smaller house.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, that there is such a sense of security that you get from your own house, but it cannot be a purely emotional decision, and it cannot be a purely financial decision.
Yes. Yeah.
It has to be a blend.
That's the right way of putting it, right? It's a
Yeah.
combination of both.
It has to be a blend of both. Incredible. I think by now, इस पूरे podcast में you've mentioned increasing your income at least 20 times now. So it's time for the $1 million question. How do you go about increasing your income, in the sense, because like I said, you've dabbled in a lot of things. So you've been a salaried employee, you've been an entrepreneur, you've been a consultant. What are the strategies that you've implemented in your career to exponentially increase your own income?
So I would say in my case, I happen to be in a profession where income was significantly higher. Let's just put it in very simple words, right?
Yeah.
But I got into this profession because I had love for what I wanted to do, right? A love for applied maths. Chose a profession which happened to be paying significantly higher. It's quite romantic to say that, okay, do what you like, right? I mean, ऐसा होता नहीं है. Ultimately, जब जेब में पैसा नहीं होता है तो फिर कुछ नहीं चलता लाइफ में. Do what the world is willing to pay for, and you're reasonably happy to do it. And then you would eventually do better than the average. And that's where you start making money more.
Yeah.
So identify what the world is willing to pay for. Similar to what Ikigai says, but maybe starting from what the world is willing to pay for. Is that something that you would like to do or can sustain for an extended period of time? And if these two match, you would do reasonably better. Ultimately, you make more money if you are in top 1 to 5% of in that profile, right? And that's where your income increases.
Yeah.
If you do average, you make average money, and everything just follows from there.
Yeah. Because now you're financially independent and you're living that journey right now. So हमारी audience में all the people who are right now on that journey where they want to be financially independent, if you had to give them one reality check कि भाई financially independent होने के बाद ये होता है असलियत में, what would you want that to be?
Yeah, so I think financially independent अगर आप mindlessly change कर रहे हो तो be prepared for a shock, because life would not change, right? Look, you're financially independent, money is not part of the worry, but the roads outside won't change, right?
Yeah.
People around you would not have changed. There would still be some rules that you have to abide by. आपको अगर फ्लाइट पकड़ना है तो 1-1.5 घंटे पहले जाना ही पड़ेगा. इंडिगो कैंसिल करेगा तो जो फाइनेंशियली इंडिपेंडेंट नहीं है उसको भी सेम झटका लगेगा, आपको भी उतना ही लगेगा in terms of inconvenience, right?
Yeah.
So the world suddenly doesn't start revolving around you, right? Just because now you have money in the bank account. the world would still have similar problems. So life would not change. Yes, you have one less worry, one less thing to worry about, and that's great.
Yeah.
Right? And you would have liberty to do things that you like, but you would only be able to do it only when you are already out of the rat race. If your comparison with others continue, you would probably not be able to be actually free, even though you're financially independent. So a lot of it is a journey in terms of understanding who you are, doing things that are aligned to you, and that doesn't have to wait for you to become financially independent. Do that on an ongoing basis, and you would live a fuller life. If you don't, fire won't make you happier.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming here on the show. And I think I'm going back home with a lot of food for thought and I need to rethink a lot of things. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Shagun, for having me here. Had a lot of fun chatting with you, and I hope people find worth their time when they watch this.
Thank you so much for this conversation. And you too, I hope आपको इस conversation से बहुत सारे insights मिले हो. अब मैं आपसे मिलूंगी on the next episode of The Net Worth Show. So take care until then.
Investment in the securities market is subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.